Good morning, guys. Good afternoon. Good evening, wherever you are in the world. I've got a fantastic guest for us today, Staacy Cannon, and she's actually got a fascinating story. She describes herself as living midlife lit up, and she's got a journey around supporting midlife women, especially a lot of people in the audience, doctors, lawyers experiencing burnout, major life changes, perimenopause, divorce, career changes, empty nest, and she's actually done a lot of things. She's been very successful in the world of startups, entrepreneurship, and she's here to add value and help people look at the bigger picture and slow down. And I'm really happy to have her on to add value. Staacy, welcome.
Thank you, Chris. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So briefly describe your journey, and we'll dive into the questions for the audience.
Okay, sounds good. I started my career in the startup world, and I was driven by the fast-paced nature of startups, and I thrived on it. I quickly dove into, as I'm sure most of you are aware, startups start really small teams and you get these big titles really early on. So I felt super successful really early on, and it was a huge boost, I guess, false sense of boost of self-esteem. And I kept running with it, and I love startups. So I built and built and built until I completely depleted myself. And I went through a major divorce and a pretty tumultuous custody battle. And in the midst of this, I was burning myself out from startups. And I one day looked at myself in the mirror and was like, whoa, you're an old lady.
Mm.
I was like 40, 44 or something. And I looked at
Mhm.
myself in the mirror and was like, whoa, you're starting to look like something's not right here. I didn't feel good. My body was just run down. And so I took myself on a vacation to Hawaii.
Mm.
And when I got there, I immediately got off the plane and felt just the sense of calm that I hadn't felt in years, probably decades. And I started working with a native Hawaiian healer there and realized on that 10-day trip that I needed to change my life drastically. And this wasn't exactly how I wanted to be living. And I didn't at that point love building startups anymore. I didn't love the fast paced nature, but I was doing it because that's what I had always done.
Mm.
And, and so when I got home, I regrouped and thought about what I wanted to do. And actually, before I started startups a couple of decades ago, I had run retreats teaching yoga. And that kind of kept creeping back in while I was in Hawaii. Kept thinking,
Mhm.
wow, retreats. When I was hosting retreats, I just had so much fun. But at the time, I was young and I didn't think I could be very successful doing that. And the way I defined success then is very different from how I define success now. I thought at the time I needed big titles and a lot of money to define success, and now I define success by how often I laugh in a day. And I love my life now. So yeah, I that trip was monumental for me.
Mhm.
After that was at the end of 2019, and then COVID hit in 2020, and I really had to decide what I wanted to do then. And I decided that I needed to take a sabbatical and take some time to really heal myself. My nervous system was a wreck from
Mhm.
being so burnt out. The amount of cortisol that was floating in my body was unreal, and my body was living in fight or flight. So I moved to Hawaii and started healing myself.
Mhm.
And then after about 4 years of healing, built. I decided in that time, people would reach out to me on social media or text me and say, "Hey, what are you doing? You look like you're aging backwards." And that was such a compliment, and it more of a compliment of like I told you earlier, I looked at myself in the mirror at like 43 or 44 and thought, wow, I feel like I'm in my 60s right now. And so to hear that, it was like I'm really starting to heal my body, and you can see it. You can see the visually, you can see it physically, I can feel it
Mhm.
spiritually. I feel grounded and safe, and so I said, some folks asked me if they could come out and stay with me. And I thought, why don't I just put retreats together? Why don't I create what I was looking for when I needed this? And so that's how Live Retreats is born.
Really fascinating, and there's a lot to unpack. And one thing is we were talking about before we started was, especially during COVID, people were reaching out, and a lot of doctors, they realized this kind of life that they're living wasn't serving them. And so you talked about going first and giving first, even in the face of loss of income or just loss of stability or loss of control. Describe that to the audience.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, one thing that I tell my friends all the time in the health industry is we can only give as much as we're filled, right?
Mm.
We can only give from a full cup. And if we're not healed inside, then how are we healing other people, right? So we're only showing up as much as the capacity we have inside of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's almost because you're a healer and run wellness retreats and yoga practitioner, and it's if you give first. I had a guest yesterday. He was talking about he was like millions of dollars in debt, and he said he was going to give his way out of debt, which is counterintuitive. But he's like, when you give first, the universe will serve you. And to follow up on your ideas, talk about just this idea, because a lot of I'm part of a yoga studio, and I always go to the first class, and a lot of them are type A startups and entrepreneurs. I mean, it's just, I don't know why, but I don't know why it attracts. But talk about this breaking free from perfectionism and a journey to self-care and fulfillment.
Yeah, I'm sure you if you're going to a yoga class with a bunch of type A's, you're also in a yoga class with a bunch of perfectionists, and that was me. I was going to Ashtanga class. I don't know what kind of yoga classes you're going to, but it's typically Ashtanga classes. Is that
Yeah.
what you're
I do a Ashtanga and also a Vinyasa, the flow, like the
the
heated
power?
flow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very much a type A
Yeah.
yoga class. And there's nothing wrong with that. Look, yoga is great for us in all respects. For me personally, Ashtanga was building that cortisol. I was thriving off of the cortisol pumping and adrenaline pumping. And so for me, Ashtanga also fueled that. But
Uh-huh.
after a certain time, it doesn't fuel our bodies anymore. As a doctor, better than I do about this. Perfectionism also, right? When we don't allow ourselves, like, we're never going to be perfect. It's
Yeah.
silly for us to think that we are going to be perfect, right? We
Yeah.
leave that up to the universe and up to God or whoever, however you call them. But we strive for this ability to do things just perfectly, and it just causes more stress in us. But that's what we're doing to ourselves. We like that feeling of the stress and the anxiety.
Yeah.
I will say that was a former appreciation. I don't love that feeling anymore. In fact, I was in Mexico City the other day, and it was the first time I had been in a city in a while. And I felt that sense of that little bit of stress, that little bit of fight or flight, just brought me back to living in the city again. And I didn't love it. I didn't love it at all. In fact, the other day, another time I was surfing, and I love surfing. It's one of my favorite activities. I went surfing and it was pretty big out. The swell was pretty big, and I was paddling into it, and I felt that feeling of fight or flight. And I was like, I don't like this. I like to crush small waves.
Yeah.
I like to feel good. But in the past, that adrenaline made me feel good. That was something that I was seeking. I no longer seek it because
Yeah.
I feel good with things that are pleasant,
Yeah.
right? That are soft, that are feminine. Before, as a woman, I was very much living in my masculine, and it was, it just wasn't working for me, even though I falsely believed that it was working for me.
Yeah. Fascinating. And do you believe that we've got it all wrong? Silicon Valley and startups and raising venture capital, becoming a billionaire. Do you think we have it all wrong, or do we need these? Because we've seen some of the greatest innovations in the last several years, and it's getting faster and faster. So how do you reconcile this need to innovate and create, and versus chasing the wrong dreams?
I love this question. This is really fascinating. And for just to think through what you're asking right now is I was one of the startups that I was building. It was something that was very near and dear to my heart. It was something I founded, was a company called Grok and Banter. And we built AI technology using computer vision to measure the effectiveness of out-of-home advertising. And the system that we built eventually measured people's emotions. It was fascinating technology, right?
Mhm. Oh yeah, AI is really innovating and it's growing and it's already here and it's just changing exponentially.
Yeah. And so I started building that in 2014,
Wow.
years ago, right?
Yeah.
Way too, we're early for its time. But you asked me that question now today. And what my honest answer is, I think it's unnecessary. Love my simple life. I love
Yeah.
living in the country. I love that I can walk outside of my lanai in Hawaii and there's goats and pigs running around.
Yeah.
It's just a simple life and it feels really good. It's nourishing to my heart and to my soul. And
Yeah.
I on Sundays I pick up my phone. My partner and I were actually discussing whether we needed two phones or just one phone. And that's where I'm at in life right now. Like I keep my computer for these kinds of things, but other than that, I don't want to touch technology.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I've recently implemented boundaries with technology, not responding to emails, just shutting down, going for walks, getting fresh air. And a lot of the audience are high achieving women, they're doctors, why is it so difficult for the audience to prioritize self-care, and how do you help them understand that and break that cycle?
Repeat your first question again because
Well,
I got stuck on the second one because I love answering the second one, but
oh,
the first question?
why is it so difficult for high achieving women to prioritize self-care?
We do it all, right? We grew up in a
Mm,
time where we wanted to we want we wanted to be able to we wanted to be seen like men were seen, right?
mm,
We
mm,
wanted to do it all. And when we do it all, there's no time for self-care, right?
mm,
And there's also, I see it a lot. I felt it with myself and I see it a lot with the women who come into the retreats is it's easier for us to abandon ourselves, right? Than to and prioritize other family needs, work needs rather than ourselves. And
mhm,
so one of the things that we do in the retreats to break that habit is it's the idea of dating yourself so that you fall in love with yourself, so you stop abandoning yourself, and so that
mhm,
you prioritize self-care. And when we prioritize self-care, we're filled up inside. We can give from a place that's where we're full. And when we give from a place where we're full, we give so much more and we're so much more creative. And there's heart behind it. It's not just the memorization of, I'm not in the physician's world, so I don't want to speak on that specifically, but we give
mhm.
from a full cup and we can show up and be present.
Yeah.
And the biggest key to that is we're no longer abandoning ourselves, which is huge.
Yeah. It's really interesting. This kind of the previous we were talking about balancing and or doing things for the wrong reasons. And so what I really love is you help clients with your wellness retreats. And so the clients that, sign up and come to you, what do you see the most common challenges your clients face, and how do you help address those during the retreats?
It's overload, right? They're burnt out. Their systems on overload and they don't feel like there's a way to come back from that. And one, like I said, stepping off of the plane in Hawaii, the mana, the magic is real. It just washes over their body. The retreats are 7 to 10 days, depending on which retreat you go to. And about the third day in, you can see people really sinking in and really starting to embrace the softness that's inside of them. And that we have all kinds of activities for women to date themselves. And I don't mean to do that in quotation marks, but it really is dating yourself. So the activities are anything from surfing, hiking, dancing, salsa dancing, hula dancing. The activities are all around very feminine activities. And
Uh,
helps, it just helps us step into that softness that's within us. The
yeah.
perfectionism and all of that makes us very hard and it makes us our I guess I should say it helps us really embrace our masculine qualities. We all have
Yeah.
masculine, feminine qualities, right? And it
Yeah.
really helps us step into that masculine side of us, which helps us survive in a very masculine world in the workforce, right? And so being able to embrace these feminine activities helps women to soften, including myself. I need it. I'm constantly throwing myself into these activities.
Yeah. Fascinating. Yeah, because I lived in Honolulu for 3 years, and yeah, I described this feeling because coming back to the States, moving back to the States, I lived there for 3 years and experienced the same descriptions that you're describing. And I land in Los Angeles, and all of a sudden I get off at LAX, and all of a sudden this wave of anxious energy just pours into, and I can feel my heart just like start palpitating. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I'm back. Yeah, I'm back in the States. This rat
Yeah.
race. But yeah, fascinating. And people that resonated with your story and your journey, how can they connect with you, learn from you, check out your retreats, etc.?
Yeah, thank you. Laia, Laia, retreats, I'm sorry, retreats.com. You can tell I'm at the beach right now.
Yeah.
Or on Instagram at Laia, Laia _retreats.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. Thanks so much. And I love your passion and your energy, and you can feel your vitality coming through, and keep up the great work.
Thanks so much, Chris. I appreciate you having me.